For every tiger lover, we have another tiger on the block, and it is none other than the Tiger Mouse. It is a tier 9 German super heavy currently available as stage 100 reward with basic season pass, and as I always say, buy the basic season pass if you can finish the season. And this tank does get the better 530 alpha gun, slightly mobile than the Martian when it compared with the Martian earlier. The tank is essentially a little bit faster, has less H speed, and doesn't have the secondary weapon yet. It does have it on the turret, and maybe in the future they'll add it similar to what Marston has, but so far it doesn't. So the tank has Marston's turret, and what it looks like an E100 hull with the E75 side armor, and it kind of looks nice. I don't have the skin yet, as that's a stage 120 reward, but that's where everything ends, because the tier 9, they have a rough life. They have a rough life because of the changes to matchmaking that happened about 6 months ago, maybe a year, where for a bottom tier to be in the game, there has to be at least 5 tanks. So if it's the tier 10 games, you need at least 5 tier 8s in each on each side. Otherwise, tier 8s are removed and you only see tier 9s. And as a result, most of the time tier 9s are the one facing tier 10s, as they're mid tier, never bottom tier, and the life of tier 9 is very, very rough these days. As every other tier got benefit from that changes, but not the tier 9. And to make it worse, the tank is slow. It is faster than the Martian, but unfortunately it is slow, and the life of the lower tanks is rough. Especially we have this new map that was added with the season, Gods of Thunder, Death Valley, 15 by 1500, the biggest map, and at higher frequency as well for the next 2 weeks. And when you have to play the slow tanks, the best way to play is just not leave the spawn. Well, I mean, go a little bit forward and just hold. It's the general way to play the super heavies anyway. I thought it's kind of not a traditional super heavy, or a little bit faster because it goes 32, but to be honest, still feels like super heavy because it doesn't turn. It doesn't turn, and for all those who say, well, have super heavy should lead the charge. You can't lead the charge if you can't move, and you die basically because you're so slow. You get penned on your weak spot and the premium. So let's get started with the setup, and then we'll discuss the stats of the tank. For my equipment, using advanced loader, gun stabilizer, improved ventilation to improve the DPM and the gun, consumables going with enhanced repair kit, med kit, and rations, and of course the camo paint for now. For my crew skills, I'm using bond leader, rapid loading, steady aim, snapshot, 6 sense, armor angling, situational awareness, track mechanic, and run and gun. I could add clutch braking, I could add off-road, but you can add those skills. Maybe it'll make slightly different. Of course, it'll make slightly, but I just use the same heavy crew I was using for my KPZ. So I just focus on gun, right? Because it doesn't matter what I do, it is a tier 9, I'm gonna have a rough time. So I decided to go with the gun perk crew rather than improving the mobility slightly. Looking at the armor viewer, we do have a 310 in the mantlet. You will get penned with heat, and then 300 on the cheeks. Premium shells will eat you. Do not even try to contest the tier 10s. Upper hull is 200. Might get some bounces there, but what I've seen is I get like easily penned on the side. So side turret is 120, lower plate is 130. It's pennable as well, pretty easy, reliably. And the side 120, because it's too tall, it suffers from the same problem as VK Bravo. It's just too tall, and you get penned very easily on the side RBRT. It isn't as strong as E100, which kind of bounces. So, and it is flat, right? Similar to, I guess you can say, mouse, but I just feel it gets a little bit penned easier for some reason, but it is flat and does get penned. And you have the back 100 will not get shredded by T249. So that's a plus. You do have a commander hat. It is smaller than the Mauston. And then 40 mm of tracks. And so overall, it's okay armor. You can side scrape, just don't get caught out in the open, because, well, you will die. For the modules, we have engine in the front. I do get my engine damage very, very often, and you'll see it in the replay as well. Fuel tank in the back. Then we have ammo rack, rear of the turret, middle of the tank, and then crew members, 4 in the turret and 2 in the hull. Now these are the stats after my equipment. Forward 32, reverse 16, horsepower 1200, power to weight 10 flat, hit points 1950. I would rather play like T10 and or Super Conqueror than this tank, to be honest. But as I said, like for those who love Tiger, well, you have another tank. Not the greatest, but it is a Tiger. and a combination of mouse. So what's better than a tiger and a mouse? A tiger mouse. A rotation of 20 degrees, terrain resistance 0.99, 1.53, and 2.2 respectively. View range 427. Don't have optics. Sorry, that's the concealment. View range is 476. Turret rotation 20 degrees, very, very slow. It just doesn't turn. Turns like a boat when your hull rotation is 20 degrees. You can run fuel, to make your rotation faster, or rapid aim, but as I said, you can do all those things to make life a little bit easier. Probably that, but the thing is, the mobility is still the issue. But as I said, right, you can remove some of the. But if you remove the view range perks or gun handling, it is a tier 9, doesn't have the greatest gun handling, that'll suffer penning. So what do you want to choose? You either choose you hit the shots, or you choose a little bit better mobility, right? And I went with the better gun. Accuracy during rotation 0.36, solid accuracy during rotation, depression 7, base accuracy 0.31, reload 11 seconds, accuracy during movement 1.52. Aim time is 2.1 seconds. Does have solid accuracy during rotation though. DPM 2800, penetration 246 standard, 311 premium, and alpha is 530 for standard premium and 670 for HE. L velocity 920 for standard, 1150 for premium, and 920 for HE as well. It is a tier 9, so no premium bonus. So now let's see how this deck actually performs, and if it's balanced or broken. And by looking at the stats and how we play it, it is not broken. And with the current matchmaking, I would say every tier 10 that especially that are slow, they are weak. They're weak. It's not balanced. It's weak. Well, I think maybe if it's a little better, and maybe if it gets the secondary weapon working, they implemented, which they might. They said they'll look into it. Then it might become a little better. But even then, E75 is better if you want that kind of heavy. VK Pro is probably also better, but E75 just does this role, what this tank is supposed to do, much more effectively. That's the Bossman tank. And if you compare it to Mostyn, even Mostyn struggle. So yeah, it's similar to Mostyn, but Mostyn isn't the greatest either. It is a weak, and that's what happens. You get armor, you lose everything else. You're just supposed to hold. So let's take this out in the battlefield. After getting rough maps for most of my battles, and especially playing Death Valley multiple times, we were fortunate to finally getting Ensk, which is one of the best maps for a super heavy. And to make it even better, I was top tier, and this was the best game I had. But in general, right, as I said, you are slow. You basically hold a flank that's weak and stay there. Don't try to push somewhere, because you will not get anywhere. And if someone's going with you, they'll always be ahead and will do more damage. But here we are in Ensk. I was thinking, should I go forward to around D3, start punishing them? But then I was worried, well, what if the flank from the 4 line, 2 of their tanks pushed inside of that cubby hole, so and E1 was going forward. Decided to join him. I'm like, E1, I know you have been buffed, but I also have the better alpha. And as soon as I did that, their hard case pushed out. And now reversing, because, well, I take forever to reload. He's almost dead. I'm taking my time to aim, and I bounce. Not the greatest stat. And now hard case is dead, and all of a sudden they have tanks over on the other side. So moving forward again, well, the good thing is it is a small map, the smallest in the game, and a dream for super heavies, especially when you're a top tier. But at the same time, if there are too many T's, there's not much you can do. So time to side scrape in the Tiger Mouse. IS2 peaked a 531, very close to an average roll of 530, and an ammo rack and a track. They want to see the new tank. They're wondering, how do I have the new tank? Well, if you guys didn't know, we get rentals, and we pay the rent by making videos. The Felice, he's focusing on the other side, getting around him, and a nice shot into his rear hull, setting him on fire. Beautiful. Beautiful. 1600 damage. The game is close, and what do we have? A Type 4 heavy. Peeks around a corner, bang. He penned my lower plate. The lower plate is pretty easy to pen. I thought it would be stronger, the angle looks stronger, but the 130mm is just weak. Like, if it was 160, probably better, but if he shot at me twice, he was shooting, and he penned me, or maybe AP, and he penned me both times and damaged my engine. And that's what I was talking about. Every pen to the lower plate just damages your engine, because it's that big. So finally, side scraping, he bounced, and I was a little bit relieved. I was also panicking, asking for my help to push that guy. He is sideways and we have so many tanks. But all of a sudden our team is up by 5 tanks and 30% HP. And that's the problem with the small maps as well. The game gets decided very quickly. It is good for super heavies, but then sometimes a situation like this happens. Moving forward, the G sword or the TD is full health. He crossed while I was struggling to turn. Another tank crossing. He was not so lucky. Got penned in the side, and Tiger Mouse is coming in hot. Too fast. Well, actually too fat and too furious. Tiger Mouse is coming slowly, 24 kilometers per hour. But once it gets there, it will destroy. And as I said, if you get this tank, well, at least wait for the 2 weeks to finish, because the map tests values at higher frequency. And after that, the best way to play this map is, as I said, unless you're top tier in a small map where you can push, most of the time you don't get the opportunity to push. And in that way, the best way to play super heavy or slow tank is just hold a corner which is weak and defend it. And when the opportunity presents later on, you can push, right? I know a lot of people are like, why is the C100 sniping? Sometimes the opportunity doesn't allow you to push. If there is artillery, right, if the flank is weak, that's the way you do it, right? Same thing with the YAG, same thing with the T95, mouse and mouse. There's some maps that are small, right? Even 1000 by 1000 that can allow you to push, but that opportunity doesn't always happen. So the verdict on this tank, it is weak, but that is the life of super heavies. They have enough armor to bounce standard shell for same or low tier, and actually even standard shell does pen its lower plate, but premium just goes through it. The tier 8 can pen it reliably, the lower plate, and a premium of course. And it's just too slow, right side gets penned as well. So not the most fun tank to play in a lot of games, but can be exciting, especially if you, as I said, the combination of Tiger and a mouse. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Check out our community regimented Discord, and I will catch you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.